Jake, 10 episodes deep, man. I mean, how's she feel?
Feeling pretty good. It's going better than I thought, especially after the first recording or two. And then there have been a few hiccups. We've been late 1 or 2 episodes, as we are today's, because I've been on the move too much, and we got some episodes in the can, and then we got a little bit behind.
Well, and the ratings have been pretty solid, except that one.
Our ratings have gone up. We have 6 5-star reviews and 1 4-star review.
Huh. Still hasn't been changed, huh?
It has not been changed, but we did get called out on this because I did run that professional wrestling show in Pendleton a few weeks ago, and my friends Matt and Katie came up to me, who are awesome and who are listeners, and she was like, out of nowhere, she's like, "Oh yeah, you called me a prick on your podcast."
To be fair, Katie, I called you a prick.
Well, so when she said that, I was so stunned. I was like, "Oh my God, did I call you? Who did I call a prick?" And in my head, I was just like, "Oh man, did I really say that about something?" I didn't think I said that about anybody. And then I was like, "Oh yeah, the review," or maybe she even said the review, and I was like, "Oh yeah, you left me a 4-star." And I immediately turned to you, and I was like, "Pete, this is our 4-star review."
That prick. Well, just to be clear, this is Jake's show. I'm just here to screw with it. I don't care if you like Jake or not, but you will leave a 5-star review.
So, funny thing was, I think I had told you initially, I was like, well, you know, a couple 4-star reviews isn't bad because it lets me know to keep working harder because I know I can improve. And the 5-star reviews are people just being really nice and genuine because it's probably not a 5-star podcast, but they like me.
Well, what do you people want? You want special effects? You want sound effects? What do you want? What's the deal?
I have no interest in glamming it up. But it's funny. The funny thing is, she actually said pretty much that. She's like, well, I want you to keep working harder. I don't want you to get complacent. So, you know what? If her 4-star stands, it stands.
Nah, don't be a prick. Rate 5-star. That's the word. That's the word.
I don't think we've gotten any like written reviews yet, though. A written review sometime would be cool.
Ooh, it's true. Or if you have critiques, constructive or otherwise, offthecliffpod@gmail.com.
Yeah, exactly. And, we were just talking about this a moment ago. While a lot of this I've intended to be funny, like not all the episodes are going to be funny. Like I have some heavy stories I'm going to tell at some point, but I want to get these funny, awesome things out.
Like that time that some people killed your dog and you got real mad and just went on a rampage like murdering people.
I'm not a dog person. I'm not a dog person at all. That's actually probably not funny. That's probably really heavy to a lot of people listening to this. I don't like dogs.
See, I was just waiting for you to spin it to John Wick, and then we could like tag the crap out of that because that's going to be cool. Like, I think it comes out this week.
Does it?
Probably does.
I've not seen any of them.
What?
I hear they're cool.
Bruh.
The John Wick movies were super popular in somewhere I was traveling recently.
Because John Wick is a solid franchise.
It sure is. But it's hard for me to remember with all the places I've even been lately where that was.
Well, I'm gonna put a bow on that and say, Keanu, anytime you want to be on the show, man, we'll make it happen. I'll
the movie
you.
Keanu, though, was one of the best movies I've ever seen.
On.
Where the cat gets kidnapped.
Nah.
It's got Key and Peele.
Nah.
Great movie.
It is not. Come on, man.
So it's, also, speaking of all my travels, one of the reasons this is delayed is because I was in Quebec. But I don't have any fantastical stories about Quebec.
Well, I mean, what's in Canada? Any maple syrup?
Oh, right when I got there, the dude who picked me up, PA, he took me to a place that was like French-Canadian Denny's. And they did have pancake with a piece of ham on it that you put syrup on and eat. Was
the syrup anything special?
Yeah, it was the best maple syrup.
Are you just putting this place over, or like, is that legit?
It was great. It was legitimately, I was like, I even told him, I was like, man, I've never had this before. And I was like, is this normal? He's like, yeah, it's normal. He also didn't speak a lot of English. Once again, I was in a place where people didn't speak a lot of English.
Let's be honest. He spoke perfect English. He was just the French side of Canadian, so he's being a prick.
No, the French Canadians don't like to speak English with people. That is true. But the guys at my company are super cool to me. Even if they don't know a lot of English, they try.
Did you go deep in some teen while you were there, man?
I had so much poutine. I was chasing poutine like crazy. Like a college kid. Crazy for French fries with gravy on it.
You just had an appetite, a craving, after, before, during, whatever a show.
Insatiable craving for poutine.
Nice.
I had buffalo chicken poutine. I had maple bacon poutine. If you don't know what it is, Google it immediately.
Well, so are they snobby about their poutine? Like, do they take it seriously, or it's just, hey, this is our deal. Anywhere you go, you got fries and cheese and gravy, and that's just what we do. Like, would they say, oh, never go to the Waffle House to have their poutine. You got to go to, wherever the hell else.
To my knowledge, they take their poutine very seriously. But you can get poutine anywhere. I did get some to-go poutine at McDonald's when it was the only thing open at 10 p.m. on Sunday night.
Tell me of this McDonald's poutine.
Yeah, it was maple chicken poutine. So it was fries, gravy, cheese curds, which is poutine, and then had fried buffalo chicken strips on it and buffalo sauce. It was great.
Nice. What's the portion size like?
It was a lot more than you'd think you'd get for $5 at McDonald's. Yeah.
Nice. So you referenced Pendleton to take it back to 4-star reviews and how much crap they are.
Yeah.
I was there. You had hundreds of people. Like, no exaggeration, hundreds of people. From what I perceive, looked to be a great draw.
Yeah, 700 or 800 people. Yeah.
Good amount of matches, good amount of crowd involvement. But then that got me thinking, as a wrestling noob at best, what makes like a good wrestling fan and what makes a bad wrestling fan? Because I really don't have any clue as to what is successful or not by way of engagement.
As long as they're into it, it's not too big of a deal. Like, as long as they're into it as a wrestling fan, that's all I care about. I don't care if it's like a boo, a cheer, chants, for the most part, whatever, as long as they're into it. So like there were like 700 or 800 people there, right? Last year at that same show, there were like 18 or 1900 people, but they were quieter than the 700 or 800 people we had this year. So in reality, this year's fans were a lot better than last year's, just because they made more noise. However, so I have been to shows where there were a couple hundred fans and they are quiet the whole time. Like, they don't react to anything, and that's a bad fan.
As a performer, do you view it as your responsibility as an individual performer? Is it a team thing, you and your opponent? Or do you look at kind of more who planned the show thinking, gosh, the story that you're trying to tell throughout all of the matches kind of sucks. Like, and with that, how do you make up for shortcomings?
So sometimes the bad crowd is completely the fault of the bad performers, but then sometimes you have great performers and still bad fans, which is the worst. I'd much rather the crowd not be good because the wrestling's not good, but sometimes the best dudes in the world can be doing the best match in the world and the crowd just doesn't care. Like, one place I used to wrestle every week was like that. They were quiet all the time, every single week, even though what they were seeing was crazy good. So that's super frustrating. But then again, I could be in a room with 5 people, and as long as those 5 people were into it, it would be okay. Not ideal, but it'd be okay.
Take them all out for poutine after, show them you appreciate them being there.
Yeah, Saturday night at my show in Quebec City, there might have been 5 people.
Oh, no.
Yeah. They didn't make any noise. It was the worst of both worlds.
Who were you wrestling?
I was wrestling the promoter, Steven Sullivan.
What is his wrestling name?
Steven Sullivan.
Oh, come on.
Oh, his real name isn't Sullivan.
Okay.
Yeah, his real name is French.
Well, I was like, you're in Canada and you don't have some pretentious French name that you wrestle under? Like, Steven Sullivan sounds kind of American.
That's very American. Yeah. His actual name is very French Canadian.
Is that his gimmick? Does he try and be American? Is he mocking us and did you annihilate him for it?
Nah, but I mean, mocking us would make you a good guy there. I did try and cut a really condescending promo, like, about how I'm from America and how I speak English and everything like that, and called all these people out. And then I tried to have the announcer translate it all to French in front of them. They still didn't care. They still didn't care.
Well, from what I perceive, and again, it's down from last year, but how do you take that crowd from Pendleton and translate it to Grand Park? Because the Pendleton show was, everything was free. Mm-hmm. You had a bit of a built-in audience because it was at a school. You did a career day before, right?
Yep.
And probably most people who listen will know, but White River Wrestling is your company. You're a small business owner. You outlay cash to get a spot. You walk around, get sponsors, distribute advertisement. Like, how are you going to draw and fill Grand Park?
Every show you run is different and difficult in its own way. Pendleton, in theory, should have been easy because we could advertise at the schools. However, our partners at the school did not help advertise at the school. So the only advertisement really that happened was that I went to the elementary school a few days before, and the principal was cool enough to take me to every room to give like a pitch to these kids, like a 2 or 3 minute pitch to every room. So that's why there were so many little kids there. Now, I don't know if we can get any of those Pendleton fans that only went to Pendleton over to my next show, which is June 8th at Grand Park in Westfield, because that's a pretty far drive. It's like, 40 minutes drive. So I'm just having to take flyers and put them up all over Westfield. I'm hoping Grand Park is email blasting and putting up signs and like doing their part too. And then we'll try and draw in all those people. But I don't know how many people I draw from the school, because at the school we're doing a show for charity. It's for a good cause. So a lot of people are going to come out regardless, just for supporting the good cause. I went to another charity show a few weeks ago. Same thing. There were tons of people there, but they were only there for the cause. However, the wrestling was so bad, it actually made us look really bad. It wasn't my show. I wasn't on. I was just watching. But yeah, it's really tricky, man. You just have to try and let everyone in the area somehow know.
Well, what gets people there? I mean, and I think in 2021, the WWE is projected to make like $500 million. So wrestling is not a small industry. It's just, I would say, maybe unconventional.
Yeah, unconventional.
So how do you get somebody who might casually watch, or somebody who has an interest? Like, what's the obstacle that gets them that, that keeps them from going?
It's tricky. It's really tricky, because there's so many negative preconceptions about wrestling where people are like, oh no, it's this, it's that. No, we don't want that. It's violent, or it's fake, or it's stupid. And, or they saw Raw one time, or they saw a live show one time, and it just looked so hokey and bad. Like, for instance, Grand Park, we're running close to where another company may or may not run shows, and their shows are so bad, those fans will probably never go to a show now, because they can't differentiate between one company and my company. Because to them, it's just professional wrestling, because they're also calling it professional wrestling, even though they shouldn't. But I call it professional wrestling, and it's really good. So I don't know, it's hard, man. It's a lot of just talking to people and trying to talk them into like, hey, come out and give this one chance. So like, for instance, I've worked at a gym in Fishers before when I ran shows in Fishers, and I would just tell people like, oh, hey, come check it out, give it one try. And if you don't like it, I'll just give you your money back. And then those people are like, oh, okay. And they come out and check it out. Like, oh man, that was awesome. Didn't know what I was walking into. It was great. And now they know. So, and they would also probably know like, oh, that's Jake's show. So if another one came up, they might be like, well, if Jake's there, I know it's going to be good. Also, incentive for me not to work bad shows. But it's hard. You just have to get out and talk to everyone in the community and be like, hey, just give this thing a try. It's pretty cool.
When you mentioned the word fake, how do you explain then the difference between, for the sake of hashtags, Game of Thrones? Totally a scripted show. Like, it's a mini series, just like everything else you watch on TV. But when it's wrestling, some people have, for whatever reason, they still struggle. Well, it's fake. They don't view it as performance. They view it as artificial. So what kind of gets lost between, Game of Thrones is expected to be scripted, whereas a wrestling event, a performance is viewed at, well, that's fake. Like, I don't understand why they're not viewed as similar.
There's no difference. There's no difference. Like, granted, if you go to a movie, you might go see a movie that's fantasy. And then sometimes you'll see a movie that's based in reality. And that's the only difference is like, we're a movie based in reality. However, it can also change on the spot depending on how the crowd is and how the performance goes and how the performers are. Like, yeah, it can change on the spot. But yeah, it's the same thing as a movie. So I don't get when people dog on what we do. If I'm like, oh, hey, here's a flyer to this thing. And someone's like, oh, yeah, well, that's fake. Like, yeah, so is Game of Thrones. Like, so is Batman, but you still cheered for him. So who cares?
The outcome is not known to the audience member. And as you mentioned, it's not even necessarily known to the performers until they get a feel for what's going on. To me, that's just interesting that some people get so upset by that fact. And it's like, this is also not UFC. Somebody doesn't win when they've knocked out or submitted the opponent. I don't know.
Yeah, and oh man, I could even get into the UFC comparison argument. Like, sometimes their main event's 4 seconds long. Is that not a letdown? Like,
right?
Wouldn't you want your main event to be 20 minutes and awesome and action filled and intense? Because ours can be. And like, yeah, who cares? You don't know how it's going to end. Like, you're going to show up and you buy your ticket. You don't know how it's going to end. So what's it matter? Did you know what was going to happen on Infinity War? Did you know what was going to happen next? And even if in theory you did and someone spoiled it for you, does that mean you're not going to watch and like the movie?
Well, that's a good parallel too, because the comic books, the comic books have already outlaid what is more or less going to happen. You know what's going to happen, and you still go in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and as I said, it's like people just don't get it, and they don't want to be open-minded. People don't like being open-minded. It's 2019. People like having a stance and being angry. Like, oh, no, I don't like that. Well, tell me about it. Tell me why you don't like it. I don't know. Oh, okay. Sweet. Like, it's an ignorance thing. And I used to have this argument all the time with an ex of mine. Like, ignorance doesn't mean stupidity. They're not synonyms. Ignorance just means you haven't been educated a lot on this subject. There's plenty of stuff I'm not educated on. A friend of mine and I had a conversation about health issues earlier. And I was like, all right, man, well, you're just going to have to educate me more on that because you know about it and I don't. I'm ignorant. Doesn't mean I'm stupid. Just means I'm ignorant. And there's just a lot of ignorance when it comes to what I do.
Pitch me on the Grand Park thing real quick. What I know about your shows or the shows that, White River Wrestling runs, family friendly.
Anyway, yeah. So June 8th at Grand Park in Westfield at 7 p.m. White River Wrestling is going to be putting on its first show in Westfield at Grand Park, which awesome facility. If you've not been there or not heard of it, then you're kind of living under a rock or you just don't live in central Indiana because it's like 20, 30 soccer fields, 10 baseball diamonds.
Colts training camps
there.
Great facilities.
Yeah, it's fantastic. So we're trying to build a relationship with them because, man, that would be an awesome new place to have shows. So we're inside their big sports complex, and, man, I'm just be throwing everything at the wall just to try and get people to come out and check it out. It'll be 7 to probably 9:30-ish. I think the perfect show is like 2 hours, 2.5 hours if it's going well. Yeah, the doors will open at 6. We'll have limited seats on this one, so we're trying to get people to buy tickets ahead of time. Really pushing online ticket sales on this one, which is new for me. I usually don't do that. And just introducing it to a completely new community. Like, there's not really wrestling in Westfield or Carmel, and those people probably don't have as good of idea what it is. So we just got to show them, man.
Didn't you run a show in Carmel once, dog?
Nah, I've never done that. Okay. So I will say this. Running a show, like White River Wrestling is 100% my thing, and I like it that way. So it's only me in charge of everything. Like, if it fails, it's on me. If it succeeds, it's on me. I don't like having shows with business partners because every time I've had a show with a business partner, I got bit. So like Pendleton, business partners, I got bit. They got all these awards for that show. I didn't even get a text to be like, hey, we got all these awards for raising, $10,000 for students with cancer. And then I helped a guy run a show one time in Carmel and with a business partner, and bro, I got way bit on that one. This dude fleeced me. I won't get negative or anything, but let's just say we're a couple grand in the hole, and I was a couple grand in the hole, not this guy. And he might still run shows he might still run bad shows in the area. So we have to bring good wrestling to this area, and that's what I'm going to do.
Well, and keep bringing your sweet sponsors, like Fuzzy's Vodka.
Oh, man. Yeah, remember to drink Fuzzies responsibly.
Obviously. Because if you don't drink responsibly, you ruin it for everyone.
That's true. Fuzzy's Vodka, our great business sponsor, brought to us by Pinheads, another great facility in Fishers. Go check that out. They just renovated their arcade. It's new and awesome and huge. It just might have happened to have taken up the space where we used to run professional wrestling shows, unfortunately, but they're still super cool. So we should go out there and support them at some point. All right, Pete, you had some questions for me. Is that sum up the questions for today?
Oh man, for this episode, yeah, I have plenty more new wrestling questions, maybe for a later time. But these were just things that sprung to mind for sure.
Sweet. I should have been thinking about things to talk about when I wasn't making stories in Quebec, because I was on the 19th floor of the Hilton. Had a double room to myself because some people canceled. I had this beautiful view. I was just chilling there. I should have went out and gotten into some stuff.
A view of what?
Quebec. Beautiful city.
What?
One of the most historic cities in North America, Pete.
Wait a minute. Hold on. There's only one America, and it's the one in the middle. The other two, I don't know. I can't count them.
So have you seen episode 2 of Office Championship Wrestling? Because the villain on there, I think you get along with real well.
Oh, yeah.
William Ding.
Mr. Ding.
The Wall. Oh, man, that's a story I have to tell at some point. Office Championship Wrestling.
I keep trying to bring up small things like that just to get hit with what is apparently your catchphrase on this show. It's a story for another day, Pete. I never get it.
No,
I try and set it up, and I never get
it's
it.
good. But remember, at Off the Cliff Pod, feel free to review us.
With 5 stars.
And at Jcoman 2012 and at Multimedia Hustle, you can give us likes and follows and all that good stuff. And we'll bring you like a really cool story next week.